Here, take this half. I made too much and it'll just go to waste. She said it without looking up from the park bench, already unwrapping the second half of the sandwich with the matter-of-fact efficiency of someone who has made a decision and is not interested in debating it. The man sitting on the far end of the bench, worn jeans, old canvas jacket, a paper coffee cup going cold beside him, looked at the offered sandwich and then at her face with the careful attention of someone checking whether the kindness was real or performing. It was real. He could tell. She was already looking back at her daughter. Her name was Saren Holt, 30 years old. She was sitting in Callaway Park on a Tuesday afternoon with her 4-year-old daughter Willa, who was currently conducting an important investigation of a beetle near the flower bed and narrating her findings aloud to no one in particular. Saren had one hand on the bench beside her in the posture of a mother who has learned to be alert without appearing to hover. She had made 2 sandwiches that morning because Willa sometimes wanted half of hers and sometimes didn't, and today Willa had decided firmly against turkey and had eaten only the apple and the crackers, which meant Saren had a whole extra sandwich and a man sitting 6 feet away who had the particular stillness of someone who hadn't eaten recently. She noticed things like that. Her own mother had taught her to. The man took the sandwich. "Thank you," he said, and then, after a pause, "I'm Declan." "Saren," she said, "that's Willa. She's currently documenting local wildlife." Willa looked up briefly, assessed the stranger, found him acceptable, and returned to the beetle. His name was Declan Fair, 33 years old. He was the founder and CEO of Fair Systems, a technology company whose infrastructure software ran quietly beneath approximately 40% of the country's major hospital networks. He was worth, by the most recent estimate, considerably more than he would ever need or fully comprehend. He had a driver and an assistant and a building in downtown Portland with his name on the lease. He was sitting on a park bench in old clothes because he had done it twice a year for the past 4 years as a practice in honesty. He called it his reset. He left his phone, his wallet, his identity, and his context at home for a single day and walked the city as a person without resources, without recognition, without the invisible architecture of wealth that normally preceded him into every room. He did it because his company existed to solve problems for people, and he had become genuinely afraid of forgetting what problems actually felt like from the inside. He had not expected the sandwich. He ate it, turkey, mustard, a little arugula, and sat in the November afternoon sun and watched Willa present her beetle findings to her mother, who received them with full professional seriousness and felt something in his chest that the last 3 board meetings had thoroughly failed to produce. "How old?" he asked, nodding toward Willa. 4, going on 47. Saren watched her daughter crouch lower over the beetle. She narrates everything. I think she's going to be a documentarian or a naturalist or possibly a very specific type of attorney. He smiled. She looks like she's building a case. She's always building a case, Saren said. A pause. Do you have kids? No, he said. Then, honestly, I don't have much of anything right now, if I'm being accurate about it. She nodded, without the slight recalibration he usually saw in people when they understood his situation, because she understood it as meaning one thing, and it meant another, and the difference between those 2 understandings was, for the afternoon, the most clarifying gap he had ever sat inside. She didn't see a billionaire temporarily without his wallet. She saw a person having a hard stretch. She spoke to him accordingly, directly, warmly, without adjustment. It was the most honest conversation he'd had in months. They talked for 40 minutes. Willa migrated from the beetle to a dandelion to Declan's shoelace, which she examined with scientific focus before announcing it was tied wrong. He retied it to her specifications. Saren covered a smile. Saren talked about her work, medical billing administration, the particular cognitive load of holding other people's healthcare crises in spreadsheets all day, the way she had learned to leave it at the office door, so Willa got the version of her that was present, rather than the version still staring at code. She talked about her own mother, who had died 2 years earlier and left behind a recipe box and the specific, irreplaceable habit of feeding strangers.
She always said you can tell everything about a person by whether they eat what they're given gratefully, Seren said. Not the food, just whether they receive things without making it complicated. Declan looked at the empty sandwich wrapper in his hand. "Did I pass?" he asked. "You didn't make it complicated," she said, "so yes." Willa climbed onto the bench between them with the authority of someone claiming territory and announced that the beetle had gone home and it was probably time for hot chocolate. Seren looked at the sky, assessed the light, and agreed. They said goodbye the way people say goodbye when a conversation has been more than either of them planned for, with a small pause before the actual leaving, the moment where you recognize something was real and file it carefully. "Thank you for the sandwich," he said. "Thank you for not making it weird," she said. He walked back through the park and felt the city differently for the rest of the afternoon. He went home. He picked up his phone. He had 11 missed calls, 4 of which were from his operations director about a partnership decision that needed resolution by morning. He handled them all. He ordered dinner. He sat at his desk at 9 p.m. and stared at the wall for a while. He thought about the recipe box, the feeding of strangers, the woman who had divided her lunch without ceremony and then talked to him for 40 minutes like he was just a person on a bench, which was, for one Tuesday in November, exactly what he needed to be. He reached for his laptop. He had been considering for 2 years a foundation initiative focused on single-parent financial stability programs, the kind that addressed the specific gap between working income and genuine stability, the place where people like Seren existed, employed, capable, giving, and perpetually one unexpected expense away from a different conversation. He had been considering it. He had not moved on it because he hadn't known precisely what shape it should take. He knew now. He had spent 40 minutes sitting inside the exact shape of it. He wrote the framework outline that night. It took 3 hours. When he finished, it was past midnight and the city outside was quiet. He sat back and thought about a 4-year-old building a case for a beetle, and a woman who had made too much sandwich and didn't keep the extra half, and the specific, irreplaceable clarity of being a person on a bench with nothing to offer back. He never told Seren. The foundation launched 8 months later, quietly, through a non-profit structure with no public face attached to his name. It served 1,100 families in its first year. Seren applied for one of its stability grants through her social worker, without knowing, and was approved within the month. She called her friend Margot the day the letter arrived and said she didn't know how to explain it, but something had shifted, that the world had come through in a way she hadn't expected. She was right. She just didn't have all the pieces. Some kindnesses travel in a straight line. Some travel in a long arc that bends back when you least expect it, shaped by a sandwich, a beetle, a 4-year-old shoelace inspection, and the simple decision not to keep the extra half. Give what you have, not what's left over, what you actually have. The person receiving it may be holding something you don't know about yet, and so may you. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.